Castles.
The Normans conquered England in 1066 and soon started building castles for defence. Castles were fortified homes for a lord and his family. The first castles were made of wood and earth and could be built in a few weeks. They were not strong, however, and soon the Normans started to build them in stone. Castles were often surrounded by water, a moat, so you had to go over a bridge